Hello guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. So in today's video, we are diving into one of the most important topics in modern web development, which is responsive web design. So in today's video, we'll cover the fundamentals of responsive design, learn about media queries, viewport settings, mobile first approach, and then build a complete responsive landing page that looks amazing on phones, tablets, and desktops. This is essential knowledge for every front-end developer. So without wasting much time, let's get started. And please don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoy watching this video. Last week we covered CSS transitions and animations, so you might want to check that out. Alright, so what exactly is responsive web design? Well, responsive design is basically designing websites that automatically adapt to different screen sizes and devices. Your website should look great whether someone's viewing it on a phone, tablet, laptop, or a desktop monitor. Think about it. People browse websites on so many different devices now. Your site needs to work perfectly on all of them, right? That's what responsive design is all about. The key principles are flexible layouts that adapt to screen size, flexible images that scale properly, media queries to apply different styles for different devices, mobile first thinking. In 2025, I will say about 60 to 70% of people access the internet through their mobile phones. So we will need to adapt to styling mobile first, okay? Because it's a good practice actually. So first things first, let's talk about the viewport meta tag. If you remember, I've told you about these meta tags, right? Since the beginning of our HTML classes around August. I've told you about these meta tags. Let me wrap this. Okay, can you see this tag? So what this tag does is that the width here, so this one, so this one here, width, device width, right? It tells the browser to use the device actual width instead of pretending to be a desktop, right? And also this one, the initial scale here, initial scale 1.0. So this sets the initial zoom level to 100%. Without this tag, mobile devices will zoom out to show the whole desktop site, right? Not what we wanted. Okay, that's the first step in responsive web design. Okay, keep that in mind. Okay, so let's talk about responsive units. Responsive units are measurement units that scale based on context, not fixed pixels, right? Let me show you different pixels actually. I mean different units. Okay, let me give you an example of pixel. I know I've talked about oh sorry, I've talked about them in the earlier section of this CSS, but still. So okay, there you go. So come here and select this, let's say H1, right? Let me zoom the code for you to see. Okay, so let's say font size. The default is 16 pixels actually, right? So pixels are fixed, right? I've told you before, pixels are fixed. 16 pixels is always 16 pixels. It cannot scale down, right? So using it for responsive web design is not recommended actually, unless the thing you are trying to give the size to, you don't want it to increase or decrease, right? Now let me show you m units. So this one, 1m, right? So with m is relative to the parent element's font size, right? So if the parent is 16 pixels, then 1m is 16 pixels, right? So 2m will be 32 pixels, right? Let me show you a clear example. So let's say the parent of this is HTML, right? So let's set the font size here to, okay, let me set the font size. Right now the default one is 16 pixels, right? So let's say 32 pixels. Okay, can you see that? So right now the font size 1m is 32 pixels by default. Like I told you, it's relative to the parent, right? And if you are to add this, let's say 48, right? Can you see that it's still increased? So this is how m works. Okay, okay. Actually, let me write comments on top of each one. Fixed units, and this one, let's say relative to parent. Okay, okay guys, so let's talk about rem units. So we talked about m units, right? Now let's talk about rem unit. So rem unit is relative to the root only, right? To the root element HTML. So this one here, okay? So if we are to scale this to, let's say, 64 pixels, can you see what's happening? So let's leave it at, let's leave it like that actually. So for the difference between m and rem units is that root rem units only looked at the root element, right? They use the root element's font size, right? While m units use their container, right? Their parent element. So let me show an example. So let's say this h1, we have it inside a div, right? Okay, okay. So what you are gonna do now is, let's say font size 1m, right? And let's select the div element, give it a font size of 48 pixels, for example. Okay, can you see that? But if we are to give it rem, you see, so rem elements only looked at the root element, right? While m units are this thing actually, they look at their parent element. I hope you understand. Forgive my English. Okay, so this is rem and m. Actually, if you understand them, you are going to enjoy working with them actually. So we also have percentages, right? So let's say, actually, let me give this div a background color of black, and then color of, So let's say color of sorry, so color, what the fuck is going on? Oh, sorry. So let's say color of white. Okay, and let me give it some padding too. So let me reset the default browser margins and paddings. Okay, so let's give this div a width of 50%. Okay, actually let me since it's a parent element of this h element, let me give you the example using the h1. Okay, so let's say background color of, let me give it slate blue. Okay, so as you can see now the width is 100%, right? Because it's because of this padding. Actually, let me remove the paddings for the sides. Okay, so can you see it's the width is 100%, right? So let's say width of 50%. Okay, so now if we are to scale this browser, no matter what, it will calculate the percentage of the width and take half of this parent container, right? So this is how it works. I hope you understand it. It's all very simple actually. So apart from percentages, we also have viewport units, right? We have viewport width and we have viewport height, right? So let's start with viewport width. So in this, let's say 50 viewport width. Okay, can you see that? We also have, let's say, you can even say, so the difference between with 50 viewport width and 50% is that percentages calculate for the parent, right? While viewport unit the browser, right? It means, so this 50%, 50 view width means 50% of the browser window width, right? Not the parent element itself. Okay, keep that in mind. So we also have VH, which is viewport height, right? So let's give this container, so the div, let's give it a height of 100 VH. Let's see. Okay, can you see that? It take up the full viewport height, right? So the full browser window height, which is perfect for hero sections actually. For responsive design, I recommend using rem for font sizes, percentages for widths, and viewport units for full screen sections, like this hero section here. Okay, so I think that's pretty much for units. Let's move to media queries. Now this is where the real magic begins. Okay, because with media queries, they let you apply different styles at different screen sizes. You have seen that in action before, right? So the basic syntax for media queries is, let's say, for example, so let's say for the default one, like I told you, you need to familiarize yourself with mobile first approach if you want to master responsive design, right? Because it will not give you headache while trying to make the site responsive if you start with mobile first approach. Okay, so style the mobile view first, then scale up into tablets, laptops, and desktops. Okay, so for the default, let's say, actually, let me give this div a class of container. Okay, so let me select it dot container. So let's say the default for mobiles, we want the width to be 100% and padding of 1 rem, right? So this is for mobile screens. Okay, uh yes, so let's say these are the best styles actually, right? They apply to all screen sizes. Now let's add a media query below. So let's say for tablets. So what you need to do is add media, right? And then like this, mean width. There is max width, but like I told you, we are going to focus on a mobile first approach, right? Was 768 pixels. So from 768 pixels screen sizes and above, right? So like tablets and above. Let's say we want the width to be 750 pixels. Okay, again, I'm just showing you this. It's just an example, right? It's just a demonstration. I will show you that in action sooner in this video. So let's say you want the width to be 750 pixels, right? And also padding of 2 rem. And also let's change the background color here so that we should see the effects. Let's say red. Okay, so let us just copy this one here, paste it down. So this is for desktops, right? So let's say laptops. So for laptops, I think the breakpoint is 1024 pixels, right? So for that, we need the width to be around 960 pixels. Again, this is just a demonstration, okay? I'm just trying to show you the breakpoints and how they work. So let's say green, and let me paste this one more time. So this is for large desktops, right? So that I didn't, let's say 3 RAM, okay, on laptops. So this is for desktops and above, right? Okay, so let's say, and its breakpoint I think is around 1440 pixels, so 1440 pixels, right? So this is the mobile first approach. Start with mobile styles, then add larger screen styles as you go up, right? So this is how it works. Now let's test this out and see. Actually, let me make the screen full size first, and let's open up browser devtools. Okay, so let's check the screen sizes. So So this is for laptops and up, right? So let's say we choose a breakpoint of this, right? So as you can see, the width is 100%, right? Still, still, our first breakpoint is what? Our first breakpoint is medium, right? Which is a tablet, sorry, which is this one right here. Can you see that? Let's check out the cut. So this is our first breakpoint here, right? So we set the background to red if it's on 768 pixels, and when it's on laptops, we want the background to be green, right? So let's scale up. Actually, let me decrease the zoom level so that, yeah, can you see that as it hit the 1024 pixels for laptops, you can see the style changes, so the background color changes and the size and the paddings too, right? So as we keep going, if we hit the, actually let me decrease it again. I just want to show you how the breakpoints work, right? So as we hit 1440 pixels, so this one here, you can see the background color becomes yellow and the padding it increased too, right? So this is it. I hope you understand it. Okay, so I hope you understand it. So now you might ask the default breakpoints like maybe professional developers use, and from what I've learned, this is what most developers use actually. So for mobile phones, they use, right, for small medium breakpoint, small breakpoint, right? So this one they use 480 pixels, right? So from 481 pixels, sorry, from 481 pixels to 768 pixels, right? And then for medium, they use 768 pixels. So let's say 69 pixels to 1024 pixels, right? And then we have large breakpoint, right? Which is from 1025 pixels, 1025 to 1440 pixels, right? We also have extra large, right? So from 1440 pixels and up. Although some people still add another breakpoint for extra large, right? You might you should even Google it. You can see all of them actually, right? So I hope you understand this. I hope you get what I'm trying to explain here. Okay, as they are very useful, right? Because if your site is not responsive in 2025, you are doomed actually. Because like I told you, 60 to 70% of people access internet through their mobile phones. So you might want your site to look clean on mobile devices, right? So the next thing I'm going to show you is, okay guys, so there is this technique that I want to show you, right, for making text responsive. Okay, so there is, let's get back to this thing. Oops, sorry, I actually yeah, this is what I did. So the way, there is this function called clamp, right, like this. So what this does is it takes, let me return this to, let me actually comment this out. Okay, so this function takes three values, right? So the first one is the minimum, so let's say 1.5 rem for example, and then 5 viewport width, and then the maximum size of this text, so let's say 5 rem. Okay, can you see that right from saving it? Did you see what happened right from saving it, right? So what this does is it receives the minimum of 2 rem, right? Sorry, 1.5 rem, right? It scales with the viewport width, and then the maximum it will reach is 5 rem, which we defined, right? So the font size fluid scales between these values, right? No media queries needed. So clamp function handles that. So let's test it out and see. Let's test it on mobile devices. Okay, can you see the size on mobile phones, right? This is it on mobile phones, right? So let's view it on tablets. Okay, can you see the size? Take a closer look. It's increasing. So let's try laptops. Okay, I hope you are seeing it. So it's scaling with the viewport of the screen, right? So this is what this function does. Okay, all right, let's talk about responsive images, right? So responsive image, yes. Okay, so how do we make images responsive? Let me give you an example. So let's say below this container we have a div with a class of image, right? Let's add one image. I have this image in my folder. So can you see the size of the image by default? Can you see it? You can set the size here too. Perhaps I didn't show you, but you can also set the size here, but it's a fixed size, right? It doesn't decrease, so we don't need it, right? So, and the thing is, this is not a good idea at all. I didn't recommend it. And let me remove the div. I mean, this image here, let's style the container of the image. So let's say width of 300 pixels, right? So let's say we don't want the image to exceed the width of this container, right? So all you need to do is select the image, right? So give it a max width of 100%, and that's it. your image is responsive, but you also need to add the height auto to preserve the aspect ratio of the image, right? So right now, no matter what, the image scales down, up and down with its container. So if we make this bigger, the image also becomes bigger. We make it smaller, they shrink and grow together, right? So this is how you make images responsive. Okay. So right now, okay, so I don't know, maybe I've shown you this feature in Flexbox or not, but still we need to cover it, right? So let's say responsive, let's say responsive layouts, okay, or whatever you call it. So let's come down here. I'm going to add boxes container, or let me just say boxes, and then box times, let's say I want, let's say box number sign. So I want 6, or I want 10 of them. Okay. Okay, so can you see them? I hope you're seeing them. Let me comment out those stuff on top. Oh, that's not what I wanted. Okay, so I think this black color is coming from here, right? Okay, there we go. So right now we have 10 empty boxes, right? With text of box 1 to box 10, right? So what we need to do is, let's say, let me remove the color too actually. So let's select box, give it some padding of 24 pixels. Okay, give it a background color of slate blue, color of white, right? Width of 300 pixels. Okay, so these are our boxes, right? So let's say, let me select their parent element, so their container, and display it to flex. Okay, can you see how they start? So right now their sizes shrink, right? And we don't want to see that. So this is just box 1 and box 2. So far there are no contents inside. But what if these are real cards or blog posts? See, that will not look good, right? So what we need to do is, first let's align items center, justify content center to. Okay, so how do we solve this problem? So Flexbox provides us with this property called flex wrap. Okay, flex wrap, like this. So as you can see, the values are no wrap, which is the default, and we have wrap, and we have wrap reverse. So if I say wrap, no wrap, see, there is nothing happened, right? But if I say wrap, okay, can you see that? Let me add some gap so that you see exactly what's going on. Okay, so can you see that? So what this does is, now if you are on mobile devices, let's see the magic. Let me show you the magic. Can you see that they are now stacking on top of each other, right? With just one property we make these boxes responsive. And this is not even the coolest part. Let's say uh, so let me make this screen bigger. Can you see that? Can you see how they stacked? So this happened because I give it a justify align items center, right? So let's say align items start maybe, and for the justify to, let's say, start, because we don't want it. There you go. So let's inspect this. So can you see? Can you see how they are wrapping? So once the space that remains cannot accommodate an element, then they stack. Can you see it? You see? And if you reach this one again, they stack again and again until they all stack on top of each other. So this all this just with just flex wrap of wrap, right? We also have wrap reverse. Okay, so wrap reverse. Can you guess what might that be? Well, let's check it out. Okay, so it reversed the elements, right? So as you can see, box 10 is now the last box is now the first one, right? So this is how it works. I hope you understand it. Okay, there you go. So this is flex wrap. Okay, so we can achieve this too with CSS grid, right? So let's say, for example, let me clear the flex box properties, and let's say display grid. Okay, so display grid, right? Now it's a grid container. So I've shown you this in earlier in our previous videos. I think it's in the block videos, right, where I used AutoFit and MinMax. And if you didn't watch CSS grid videos, make sure you do so, because that's a lot to take in. Okay, so what we are going to do is grid template columns, uh, let's say repeat. So this by default accepts two arguments, right? So the minimum, the number of items, the number of columns you wanted. So for example, let's say 4, and you see they are now 4, right? Let me add some gap. Okay, so as you can see, it's not responsive, right? So, right, and if you haven't watched our CSS grid videos, better go and do it, because there's a lot to take in. Okay, so right now you can see it's responsive, it's automatic responsive, right? Let me show it to you on mobile devices. Okay, can you see that? Now the problem here is we didn't make our boxes of to full the width, right? So that is why they aren't fulling the width like this. Okay, so they are now automatically responsive, right? So actually, let me make it even more beautiful. Let me add, let me add justify items center. Okay, can you see they are now centered, right? So this is the power of CSS Grid for you guys. We'll use this for your projects. Okay, so I think that's pretty much for tutorials, for lessons. Now let's build a complete landing page, right? So build a complete page with a header, hero section, features, and footer. Okay, so let's get back to our HTML. I'm going to comment this out. Okay, so right now I don't want the video to be a lot, so I'm just going to paste in the HTML. Okay, so let me go ahead and paste in the HTML. Okay, so as you can see, actually let me make the screen bigger. Okay, so let's go through the HTML. HTML is nothing new to you, so that's why I don't want to waste the entire video writing HTML. So here I have a nav section wrapped inside a container and a nav wrapper which contains the logo and a hamburger icon for the mobile toggle which contains three span for the three lines, and then we have the nav main, the list, the links, and I have my hero section here also wrapped inside a container. I also have hero content, right? I hope you are seeing that. So as you can see, we have our hero section here with the class of container. So we have the hero with the class of hero, and we wrapped its the contents are wrapped inside a container too. Okay, and we have hero content which holds the content. So this heading and the paragraph and this call to action buttons, and we also have an image. Okay, and for the features, as you can see, it's almost the same. We have features grid that holds the cards and feature card with an icon and a header and then a paragraph. So for each feature card, it's like this. And then we also have this footer section here, right? It's we have this thing wrapped here. So inside the footer content, we have footer section, and we also have another footer section for the contact, right? The first one is about, and the second one is contact. Okay, think that's pretty much for HTML. So you can you might want to copy it. Actually, I will include it inside our this thing. I will include the starter code for the project alone and send it to the group. Okay, for you guys to practice. So you should just start working with CSS instead of writing all this CSS, all this HTML. Okay, so let's get to CSS. Okay, let's say, okay, so let me minimize this. Okay, so right now we are going to start styling it, right? So let me check whether I reset the margins, and yeah, I did that above. So here I'm going to say, let me just, let's select the body. I'm going to use Inter for this. Okay, so font family Inter, right? So this is going to override the first one that we used here. Why did I define that safe? I don't know where I added that. So let me check the HTML, the CSS. Okay, I have another body here, so let me copy it. Let me just delete it, so we don't need it. And actually, let me uncomment this, and instead I will add 16 pixels. Okay, and I will also add this property called scroll behavior, right? And with this property, you can control the behavior of how your website is being scrolled. So if they click on a link like this, so how it is scrolled, right? So inside of our body here, let's say we want the line height to be 1.6. And let me tell you something, you should always start with the best styles, okay, like this. So you reset the margins and paddings, and then start with the best styles. Actually, remove the text decoration and links and other stuff like that. So for the color of text, so 2D3748. Okay, so we're going to use this color as default color, right? Okay, so these are mobile based styles, right? So let's select the container, not container, container. Okay, I'm going to set the max width, okay, to 1200 pixels, right? So I don't want the containers to get wider than 1200 pixels, right? And let me center it using the margin 0 auto. Okay, so right now, actually, okay, so it's now centered, even though you cannot actually see it right now. Okay, because the screen size is not, does not yet reach the 1200 pixels, right? And for mobile padding, I'm going to add padding 0 top and bottom, and then one rem left and right. Okay, so one rem padding on mobile for breathing room, right? And on tablets, let's say tablets. Okay, so I'm going to target, let's say minimum width, right? Since I told you this is a mobile first approach, right? On minimum width, we want the container to be, sorry, minimum width of 768 pixels, right? So select the container, we want the pad, okay, so padding of 2 rem, right? So now let's start our navigation menu. Okay, and we are going to build the navigation bar starting from mobile, right? Mobile first. So select the nav bar, So this one here, this one. Okay, so navbar, I'm going to give it a background of white. Okay, so background of white, add some box shadow, so 0 2. Okay, can you see that? Position, sticky, right? Top 0, z index 1000. Okay, you'll understand why I'm doing all of this, right? So right now we created a sticky navigation that stays at the top, right? Now let's select the nav wrapper. So this one. Okay, so for the nav wrapper, display it to flex, align items, center, justify content, space between. Okay, so let's add padding of 1 rem for the top and bottom, and then left and right 0, right? So logo, I'm going to select the logo div, so this one here. So I'm going to select the h1 inside of it and say I'm going to give it a font size of 1.5 rem, right? And also I'm going to give it a color of let's say okay. So right now why the color isn't appearing, let's check our HTML. Yeah, it's h2 not h1, sorry. Okay, there you go. Now let me style the mobile toggle btn. Okay, so select the mobile toggle class, the mobile toggle button, display flex, right, for the span elements, and then flex direction column. Okay, I'm going to add a gap of 0.4 rem, right? I'm going to add background of none for it, so the background will be added on the span elements themselves, right? So border none, cursor pointer, right, to show that the element is interactive, right? And let's add a padding of 0.5 rem. Okay, so select the menu toggle, sorry, mobile toggle, then span, right? So I'm going to give it a width of 25 pixels and height of 3 pixels, and I'm going to give it a background of, let's say, 2D 3478, right? 374, sorry. Okay, can you see it? It now appeared, right? And let me add a border radius around them. So border radius of, I'm going to add 3 pixels. Okay, and also I want some transition around it, so all 0.3 seconds is okay. So these three lines are for the hamburger icon, right? Now for the nav menu itself, so the links, this one's here, the links. So let's select nav menu, right? And give it a display of none, okay, to begin with. So this is for devices less than 768 pixels, right? So display none, list style none. Actually, let me comment this out first so that you see what you're doing. Okay, position absolute, okay, top 100%, left 0, right 0. Okay, let's add some box shadow. Okay, and I'm going to add a padding of 1 rem top and bottom so that we get some spacing. Okay, so we will hide this by default on mobile devices, right? We will toggle it with JavaScript. Okay, I'm going to use a bit of JavaScript for this. Okay, so the class we are going to add that will display this is nav menu, let's say .active. Okay, so nav menu.active, let's say display flex and f direction column. Okay, so when it's active it shows as a column, right? Let's style it. So let's say nav menu li, give it a padding of 0.75 rem. Okay, and select the nav menu links. Okay, give it a color of 2D3748, right? Remove the text decoration. Okay, and also we want the font weight to be 500, so the boldness of the text, and we'll add some transition for color, right? So we want transition between colors smoothly. Okay, now on desktop, so for desktop devices or laptops, let me say, so at media, minimum width of 768 pixels, right? But I think I already have uh, this breakpoint here, right? Yeah, so this one here, let me just, I'm going to paste it here. Okay, so on the maybe on screens and above, we want this. So on desktop, right, from bigger screens, from medium breakpoint, right, I want to hide the mobile toggle. Okay, so display it to none, right? And also this one here. Okay, so on desktop we are going to show the nav menu, right? So select nav menu, display it to flex direction to row, flex direction to row, set the position to static, right? Remove the box shadow, remove the paddings, and then add a gap of 2 rem. Okay, so let's test that out and see. So can you see the view on larger screens? It's clean, right? So horizontal menu on desktop, right? And also and we also want to remove the padding around the LIL, the list items. Okay, so let's say select the nav menu LI, right? And then remove the padding. Okay, so I think that's pretty much for the nav bar. Let's move to the features section. And for this to work, we will add a little bit of JavaScript, but let's finish with the other sections first. Okay, so the hero section. Okay, now let me start by selecting the hero, and I will add padding of 3 rem top and bottom and 0 left and right, and I'm going to give it a background color of some gradient color, right? So 135 degrees FAFC, right? 0%. And then at 100% we want this color, so E2 EF at 0, sorry, at F0. Okay, and then let's add the 100%. Okay, so right now I added some gradient background for the hero section, right? So select the hero and the container. Okay, display flex direction. Let's set it to color. Okay, and I'm going to add some gap around them too. So I'm going to add a gap of 2 rem, right? So they are stacked vertically on mobile, right? And I also want the center text on mobile. So let's select, let me select the hero content, and then text align center. Okay, now let's select the hero title. So this builds responsive websites, right? I'm going to give it a font size of 2 rem. margin bottom of 1 rem. I'm also going to give it some color. So 1A 202C. Okay, so it's now a little bit darker than before. And for the line height, I want it to be 1.2, right? So you can see the title is much more bigger and centered, right? So select the hero description. Okay, so hero description, give it a font size of 1.1 rem to make it a little bit bigger, right? I'm also going to give it some color, so 4A 5568, right? So they are now lighter than the header, right? So for the I'm going to add margin bottom for it to give some space between it and the call to action buttons, right? So I'm going to give it a margin bottom of 2 rem. Yeah, that's pretty good. So for the hero buttons, so this one's here, hero buttons. Let's display them to flex, and then flex direction column to begin with. So we want it to be column on mobile devices, right? And we also want gap of 1 rem between them. Also, let's align them to center. Okay, so they are now stacked on mobile, right? Now let's style them. So hero buttons dot btn. Okay, let's see if we selected them right. No, let's say btn. Okay, so I'm going to give it a padding of 0.875 rem. Okay, border radius of 8 pixels, text decoration none. Okay, so font weight 600. So far there is nothing new to you here, it's all what you already knew, right? So display inline block, right? So come here and select btn primary. So the first one, so we are going to give it a background of, let's say, E5. So this background here, and also give it a color of white. Okay, so btn primary hover, right? So when they hover over them, I want the background C5 3030. Okay, and I also want it to be lifted a little bit. So let's say translate y minus 2 pixels. Okay, it's working perfectly, right? So let's select the btn secondary. Okay, I'll select the btn secondary, right? Give it a background of transparent and then border of 2 pixels solid. This one here, sorry, E53, if it's E53 E3E. Okay, can you see that? And also when a user hover overs it, right? So when they hover over this button, you want the background to be the same with the primary button, right? And we want the color to be white. I didn't add the color of white here, right? So the color here is supposed to be this color. Okay, yeah, everything works perfectly right now. Now let's select the hero image. So hero image width of 100%, right? So hero image, the image itself, let's give it a max width of 100%, not mean width, max width of 100%, right? Height of auto, okay? So 12 pixels, and then some box shadow. Okay, can you see that? So right now, what we want is on this thing, on mobile devices, right? Actually, they're not centered. Let me check why the image is not centered. I don't think the problem is here, but let me just use text align here. So to center the image within its container, right? Okay, there you go. So now what I want to do is from 700 from medium breakpoint, so 768 pixels, we are going to make it horizontal, right? So this is the view on mobile devices, right? So we are going to make it horizontal. Actually, I'm going to copy this. Yeah, take it, paste it here. Okay, from now on we will keep them below. Okay, so select the hero.com container, flex direction row. Okay, and we also want align items center. Okay, so they are now side by side, right? So we want left align text on desktop, right? Right now, let me select the hero content. I'm going to give it a flex of 1. Okay, so for flex basis and grow and shrink. Okay, and for the hero image too, let's give it flex 1. And for the hero title, I want the font size to be 3 rem. Okay, so we want a bigger title on desktop screens. And for the hero buttons, let's say right now they are stacked, right? So we want them to be also, so the flex direction to be row 2. Okay, and justify content flex start. Okay, so let's check that out and see. Okay, yeah, it looks pretty good, but the problem here is this text. So the paragraph and the header, I don't want them centered on bigger screens. Okay, so for that, let's say I'm going to this is it here, right? So let's say text align to be, we are going to set the text align to left. Hopefully that works. Yeah, I think it's much better. Select the hero description too. So T align, text align left. Yeah, so that's all for our hero section. Now let's start the features section. Okay, I said we are going to do it here. So features section. So the first thing we're gonna do is select the features, give it a padding of 4 rem, right? And let's select the section title. So this one here, text align center, right? And give it a font size of 2.5 rem. So margin bottom of 3 rem, and then this color. Okay, yeah, so can you see how it turned out? So grab the features grid, okay, display it to grid, gap of 2 rem. Okay, gap of 2 RAM. Now let's make it responsive. So on screens from medium and up, select the features grid. So we want the grid template columns to be 2 times 1 FR. Okay, so on medium screens, right? And for mobile screens, I mean large desktop screens, let's say at media min width of 1024 pixels. We want 3 columns. So 3 times 1 FR. Okay, so 3 columns on desktops, right? Now let's select the features card. We'll do it above this. So features card, no feature card. Think, yeah, feature card. So for the feature card, give it a background of white, padding of 2 RAM, so I'm going to add rounded corners. So I also want some box shadow around them. So let's say 0 pixels, 4 pixels, 20 pixels, RGBA, distance 0 point. And I'm also going to add some transition. So the first transition is for the transforms. So 0.3 seconds is right. And the second one is for the this thing, for box shadow. So box shadow 0.3 seconds is right. So I also want the text centered, no, not text center, text align center. Okay, so let me format the document. Okay, so select the feature card again. So when a user hovers them, when a user hover over it like this, I want it to be lifted up by 5 pixels. Okay, so let's try that out and see. Okay, it's working. And I also want the box shadow to be, so instead of 0, 4 and 20, I want 0, 8, 30. Okay, and a more darker color. Okay, can you see that? So select the feature icon. So feature icon, give it a font size of 3 RAM. Okay, so they are now bigger, right? And mind you, these are not font awesome icons. I used normal emojis. Okay, so if you want, you can use any icon library that you want, but these are emojis on my system. Okay, so let's add some margin bottom of 1 rem for them to have some spacing between it and the other items, so between it and the heading. Okay, so after that, select the feature card, and then H3, also give it a margin bottom of 1 rem, and the color 23, okay, to 2D3748, right? So select the feature card P. So feature card and then P. So for the P, I'm going to give it a color of, so a more lighter color. So this one, okay. And let me give it a line height of 1.6. Okay. Okay, so now let's check them out on larger screens. Oh yeah, you can see they are fully responsive, right? So this is how they look on larger screens, right? So let's style the footer section. Okay, so let's scroll down. So for the footer section, let's select the footer, give it a background of 2D 3748. Okay, so we want a darker background, a gray background, sorry, white color for the text, and we want padding of 3 rem for top, 0 left, right, and 1 rem for, so top right and bottom, right? So add a little bit of margin rem, margin top of 4 rem. Okay, so let's check the HTML. So this is our footer here, right? Now let's select, where is it? Yeah, so let's select the footer content here that holds these two divs. So these two footer section divs. So select footer content, display to grid, okay, and then gap of 2 rem, margin bottom of 2 rem. Okay, now let's make it responsive too. So on tablets, we want the footer content, right? So footer content, we want 3 columns. So 3 times 1FR. Okay, so 3 columns on tablets and up, right? Select the footer section, not contents, section. H4. So for the headings, give it a margin bottom of 1 rem, and for the color, give it a color of E5. Okay, so this color. and select this thing. Okay, so select the footer section UL, give them a margin bottom of 0.5 rem for them to give some spacing. Okay, you can see them here. So without this margin, I'm coming. Let me do something. So let's say why are the links? So features, about, contact, right? ID of features and ID of contact. Okay, so now let's navigate to contact. It's not working. I'm coming. I don't know why, but let's check it out. So it has an ID of contact, right? And here I added that exactly, but it's working here. Yeah, it's supposed to work. Okay, but I don't know why it's still standing here. But anyway, let's continue building. Okay, so let's select the footer section A. I'm going to give it a color of E2 E2E at F0. Text decoration, no. So you want some smooth transition for the colors. So let's say color 0.3s is okay, and select the footer section. Okay, so let's say footer section for the links. When the user hovers them, we want the color to be white. Okay, and also let's remove this thing. I forgot to remove this here. Remove the list style. Okay, so I added this style of none. Okay, so as you can see the links here. Wait, why there is no any styles? Oh, I've been writing the whole code blocks inside this breakpoint. Sorry about that. I only needed this actually. So from here, cut this. So come and paste it here. Okay, there we go. I've been wondering how does that happen. Okay, yeah. So right now let's select the footer button. So footer at the class. So I'm going to say text align center. So we want to center the text. So this one here. Okay. So text align center for the copyright. Okay. Text align center, padding top of 2 rem, and also let me add a border top, of 1 pixel solid, RGBA 255 255 255 0.1. Okay, and we also want the color. So the color of the text to be A0 AEC0, no, AEC. Okay, so let's check that out and see. Yeah, so we have our border top here, right? So it separates them from the other section, right? So yeah, I think we are done. Okay, I think that's pretty much, we are done with this. So right now what I want is for this one to work. So our hamburger menu, I want it to work on mobile devices. Okay, so for that we are gonna need some JavaScript. Okay, so I have a JavaScript file here called script.js. Okay, you can go ahead and create your own. So let me link it here, src script.js. Okay, so I'm going to select the hamburger icon, or let me say the mobile toggle. So let's say document dot get element by id. Actually, let me use query selector. Let's say hash mobile toggle. So if we go back to our HTML, you can see I added this ID of mobile toggle and the ID of nav menu here, right? So we want to select them in our JavaScript. So let's say nav menu so document.query selector. Okay, so paste that in, and that's it. So we selected our elements, right? So these two are the only ones we will be needing. Okay, so I'm going to attach an event handler on the button here. So we will be listening for a click event, right? So when a user click over the icon, so we want this to happen. JavaScript is pretty easy and straightforward. Don't worry, we will soon come to it. Okay, so let's say nav menu dot class list dot toggle active. Okay, I think that's it. Yeah, can you see that? It's now working perfectly, right? But the issue here is, as you can see, it's the color, the background color, right? And apart from that, we also want, when you click on a link like this, right? So the whole menu should disappear, right? So when you click on a link like this, it should disappear, right? So the way we do this is, let's say, close menu after clicking a link. Okay, so let's say, actually I'm going to select the, so let's say const links, so document.query selector all. Okay, because this is a not list, right? So let's say nav menu, and we'll target all the links inside of it, right? So below it, let's say links dot for each. So for each link, for each link for each link we are going to use an arrow function here. Okay, so for each link link.add event listener. So right now we are iterating over them. Okay, we are looping over all of them. you I don't think you'll understand what I'm telling you, but don't worry. For now, let's focus on making it work. Okay, we'll explain that later. So let's say function. Okay, so nav menu dot class list dot remove active class. Okay, so what we did here is we selected all the links and iterated over them. Okay, and applied this event handler to each of them. So this click event. So now when we click on a link, you see it disappeared, right? So I think that's all we need. So let me go back to the CSS and change this background, because it's not good actually. So let's say, where is it, control F. Okay, so what I'm gonna say is, let me search for dot active. Yeah, so this one here. So we want the background color to be, let's say, no, not black. We want it to be this color. Okay, and we also want the, let me change this color to white. Okay, there we go. So now we have a working navigation menu, not just a navigation menu, a complete web page, right? And it's responsive. You can also view it on mobile devices. So let's try that out and see. Okay, I hope you are impressed. So I think that's pretty much for this video. I've shown you a lot of stuff, right? So this is the end of our HTML CSS lectures actually. So in the next two videos we are going to build projects, and then the third project, like I told you, is your portfolio, so you are going to do it on your own. Okay, now let me share some best responsive design practices with you guys. So you should always start with mobile first. Okay, you start with best styles for mobile, media queries for larger screens. Okay, and the second one is you should make sure you tested the responsiveness on real devices. Okay, don't just resize your browser, test on actual phones and tablets. But as you can see, this extension has abstracted that trouble away from us. So we now have different kind of devices that we can test this website on, right? So I think this Chrome extension is really good. So you should look into that, okay? And also use relative units. As you can see, I used rem and m throughout this, okay? So instead of fixed pixels, you should use rem and m units, okay? And use responsive images and proper formats, okay? So for responsive design, it should perform it should perform. Responsive doesn't mean slow, okay? You should optimize everything, right? Okay, and there we have it. We have covered responsive web design from fundamentals to building a complete landing page with you guys. I hope you have learned a lot from this video. Now let's recap everything that you have learned. First, I showed you the viewport meta tag and responsive units, rem and m, percentages, viewport width and height. We have also tested media queries, and I have also shown you mobile first approach, flexible layouts, responsive images, breakpoints, and finally we have built a complete landing page, right? So this landing page, as you can see, works perfectly on phones, tablets, and desktops, right? The navigation transforms from a hamburger menu to a horizontal menu, right? Everything scales beautifully. And the one thing I want you to remember is responsive design isn't optional anymore. Okay? Every website you build should work on all devices. Mobile traffic is huge, like I told you. So think mobile first always. Practice by making all your projects responsive. Test on different devices. Okay? Pay attention to how professional websites handle responsiveness. So this is my advice. Thanks for watching this video and I hope you learned a lot. If you like this video, comment and tell me the best part you liked about this responsive design video. And I'll see you in the next tutorial. Goodbye and happy coding.